Welcome to the 3-Minute Theologian, a theology podcast about what we believe, written by the pastors at Waukee Community Church. I'm your host, Jessica Savage, and in this episode, we're diving into the topic of God's sovereignty. What makes you feel anxious? People worry about all sorts of things: elections, weather, travel, grades, body image, children. The list could go on. Our anxieties often stem from things outside of our control. And yet, no matter what anxieties or circumstances you may be facing, the Bible tells us that God is sovereign. He is always in control. Psalm 115 says, "Our God is in the heavens. He does all that he pleases." Sovereignty describes how God's authority, dominion, and character are at work in creation. In general terms, sovereignty means that God is in control. But what does God's sovereignty specifically mean for your life? First, God is in control of creation. Hebrews 1 tells us that the Son of God upholds the universe by the word of his power. At this very moment, God is actively sustaining the created world all around you. The early American theologian Jonathan Edwards once contended, God's sovereignty is so great that if you were to merely stop thinking about his creation, even for just a second, all things would instantly cease to exist. God's words, his very thoughts, sovereignly preserve the cosmos. We are dependent on God's sovereignty at every moment. The second thing God's sovereignty means for our lives is that God's dominion extends over everything that exists. God is the creative, unrivaled, and absolute king, and his authority is supreme over everything he has made. God has dominion over the stars. He names them and orders their courses. He sends forth clouds and calms raging storms. He appoints fish, plants, and even prophets. He sets up kings and establishes empires for his purpose. God's sovereignty is glorious and cosmic. His dominion is over all. Therefore, your life also belongs under the dominion of God. The third thing God's sovereignty means for our lives is that God's character is displayed in the way he sovereignly rules. God is not a tyrant who uses his power for evil, nor is he a dictator who cares little about his people. He is holy, loving, gracious, and wise. Thus, his sovereignty is exercised with holiness, love, grace, and wisdom. Though God rules over all things, he is never too busy for you. His omniscience means that he is sovereignly aware of the events of your life, and he cares. Your life is valuable to the blessed sovereign. You matter to the King of Kings. He is eager to sovereignly care for you. In Matthew 6, Jesus says, "Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, 'What shall we eat?' or 'What shall we drink?' or 'What shall we wear?' Your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. When you feel anxious, remember that God is sovereign. He sovereignly upholds creation, he sovereignly rules over all, and he sovereignly cares for you."